Hello, friends, and thank you for joining me today. This is See Her Strengthen Him podcast, where we talk about love, faith, family, and everything in between. I'm your host, V, and let me tell you, it has been cold out here. I live in Arizona in the Phoenix area, and in case you didn't know, it actually gets cold out here, like 30-ish degrees cold. Funny story. When my family and I moved from Delaware to Arizona, I got rid of all of our cold weather gear because, it's Arizona. Come to find out, it gets just as cold as it gets hot in the desert. Go figure. Anywho, let's go ahead and jump into today's episode. Last week, as we were driving to worship services, I had a pretty awesome experience. Here's how it started. I played 2 songs that had been stuck in my head for a few days, and they say the only way to get a song unstuck is to listen to it. As I was listening to these songs, I couldn't help but tear up because the messages are so deep. Now, these songs have always made me cry because, well, I'm just a big old crybaby, to be honest. But these tears were different, and reflecting on why they were different this time made me cry even more. Like I said, a big old crybaby. You're probably thinking, V, what are these songs that are making you bawl like a baby? Now I'm getting to it. The first one is Unbreakable by Jamie Scott. It's about a girl who has trust issues and doesn't let anyone get close. The one singing wants to let her know that he's going to take care of her and ultimately help her be unbreakable. This song used to make me cry because I could relate to the girl. Until I had a relationship with God, I never felt close to anyone. I always felt like a second choice. But not anymore. Listen a little closer to these lyrics. When you lose your way and the fight is gone, your heart starts to break, and you need someone around now. Just close your eyes while I put my arms above you and make you unbreakable. My goodness, does that not just perfectly describe how our relationship should be with God? He will take care of us in our darkest moments, just the same as our brightest. The next song was I Can Only Imagine by Mercy Me. And this song describes what it would be like when we finally meet Jesus. If you take some time to listen to the lyrics and really think about what your reaction would be when you come face to face with him, it really puts things into perspective. There was a time when I would listen to these songs and cry out of heartbreak because I was lonely and I was broken. I felt like the only one who ever really cared for me was Jesus. But even still, I wouldn't know the feeling of closeness until I got to heaven. And until then, I would be left with this emptiness inside. But now it's different. This time I cried because I have a relationship with Christ, and I don't feel lonely anymore. And that's because I've moved away from trying to find fulfillment in earthly things and relationships, and I've moved towards fulfillment in Christ. Wow, that was quite the intro for talking about setting goals, huh? Well, I use this example because in that moment, I was able to see how far I've come because of the goals that I set for myself. And while some goals are silly, like getting a pedicure every month, which I did this past weekend, by the way, the bigger goal, the most important goal, is living a life rooted in Jesus. If you tuned in to last week's episode, you'll remember I talked a little bit about the 8 areas of life that I use for setting my goals, and those are taken directly from the Moxie Life System. If you haven't had a chance to go listen to episode 2, go ahead, pause right here, go listen to it and come back. I'll wait. Or you can keep listening and catch up later. The choice is yours. The area I'm going to focus on today is personal growth. And personal growth is vital because it empowers us to grow, evolve, and reach our full potential. It involves continuous self-improvement, learning, and acquiring new skills, which not only enhances our capabilities, but it also boosts our self-confidence and adaptability. Ultimately, personal development fosters a sense of purpose and fulfillment, which contributes to a more meaningful and satisfying life. By prioritizing this area, we invest in our own growth and become better equipped to navigate life's challenges and opportunities. This area is especially important to me because when I started this journey, I wanted to figure out who I was. The personal area of life, the way that I understood it, was focusing on me. Not me as a mom, not me as a wife, not me as an employee, just me. Here are a few verses that we can read to help in this area. First, let's go to Proverbs chapter 4, verses 23 through 27. And it says, "Watch over your heart with all diligence, for from it flows the springs of life. Put away from you a deceitful mouth, and put devious speech far from you. Let your eyes look directly ahead, and let your gaze be fixed straight in front of you. Watch the path of your feet, and all your ways will be established. Do not turn to the right nor to the left. Turn your foot from evil." Next, Philippians chapter 1, verse 6 says, "For I am confident of this very thing, that he who began a good work in you will perfect it until the day of Christ Jesus." And then let's go to Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 through 21. And it says, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in to steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in or steal. But where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Something that we do need to keep in mind as we go about this journey to find ourselves is that our hearts and our desires can be deceiving, and where our hearts lead, we tend to follow. And that's because we are going to find time for what we want to do. These passages remind us that we should guard our hearts to keep from straying from the path that leads to a closer relationship with Jesus. Jesus is the only thing, the only one that can fill whatever hole we have in our hearts. We can have faith that if we strive to continuously grow towards God, He will not fail us. It's so invigorating diving into the Bible, isn't it? Let's keep going. How can you go about setting goals for personal growth? It seems like such a broad or general area, right? First, what we want to do is set our intent or our value. That's something that I talked a little bit about in the last episode as well. When we set the intent, it forces you to clarify your goals and your aspirations. It also connects your actions to your deeper values. That's why the first thing that I like to do when I'm setting goals for the year is decide on my word of the year. The word of the year helps me focus my efforts on the value, and it helps me clearly define what my goals are. I posted my word of the year on my Instagram, Her Strength Podcast. Go check it out. My word of the year for 2024 is restore or restoration. I picked that word because 2023 was a rough year for me. I had a major setback with anxiety, and it took me back to a place where I was afraid to leave my home. 2023 was a year of a lot of changes. My oldest graduated high school. We sold our home that we had lived in for almost 9 years. We moved into a new house, in a new area, and I had to shop at a new grocery store. Yeah, that's the thing with me. I got to try something new at work, and there were just so many changes going on that it short-circuited my brain. Too much input. Okay, I know that was a lame impression of Johnny 5, but go with me here. So I spent a lot of 2023 afraid to leave the house, and there were some days where I just could not even leave my bedroom. It had gotten that bad again. The last time that I remember that the anxiety was that bad was when I was officially diagnosed back in the early 2000s. I couldn't follow through on a lot of the goals that I set for myself last year, and I also strayed away from being able to attend church services and build that relationship and fellowship. And that's why for 2024, I want to restore that mental space that I had where I didn't let anxiety win all the time. And so far, I've been okay. Granted, we're only about 3 weeks into the year. Only about 49 more to go. Keeping my word of the year, restore, at the front of my mind, the annual goals that I set for myself around restoring my personal growth are reading daily, listening to podcasts, especially faith-building podcasts, establishing some self-care routines. And the value statement that I chose is, I want to restore my personal growth by creating a space where I set boundaries and learn to take care of myself so that I don't get overwhelmed. This is what I focus on as I set my monthly or my short-term goals. If you want to see a progression of my goals in this area with the different words of the year that I had over the last couple of years, I'll go ahead and post it on my Instagram so that you can check it out. Okay, so I have my word of the year, restore, and my value statement. Now I need to set monthly goals directly related to that word or that value. When it comes to reading daily, to help me, I set a goal for myself to read at least one book a month. I've always loved to read, but with all of the things that I have going on now, and because I keep myself so busy, when I sit down to do nothing or to try to focus on a book or even a movie, I start to fall asleep within 2 minutes flat. So I listen to audiobooks instead. When I pick a book to read for the month, I typically only read Monday through Friday and leave the weekends for more spontaneity. So once I've picked my book, I see how long it's going to take to read it, or in this case, listen to it. In the Audible app, it will tell you how long it takes to listen to a book. I take that number and I'll break it down into daily chunks. This is where the math skills come in. My commitment each week is to stick to that set amount and listen to a little bit every day so that I'm not overwhelming myself and I'm getting through my book at a leisurely pace. This month, I'm reading The Introverted Leader by Jennifer Kahnweiler. I'll talk a little more about this book and why I chose it when I get to my work goals in a few episodes. For my goal around listening to more podcasts, I like to listen to faith-building podcasts while I'm doing things like cleaning around the house or grocery shopping, and it helps me stay focused on my purpose and on God, and it keeps me from running away with every irrational thought that comes through my mind. The podcasts that I listen to regularly are The Bible Geeks, Renew You with Quinn Kelly, Daily Grace or the Daily Grace Collective, and Wifey Wednesdays. All these podcasts are Christ-centered and just talk through different things like how to be a godly wife or encouragement for women to grow in Christ and learning how to be better disciples of Christ. And this really helps me to keep Christ at the center of everything that I do. My monthly goal is to stay on top of all of these podcasts by listening to their newest episodes when they come out, which is just about every week. For my goal around setting self-care routines for myself, one thing that I had noticed when I would do my weekly reflections is that I was getting overwhelmed with so much change, and I was trying to do so much, and again, just overloading my brain. Don't worry, I'm not going to do the Johnny 5 impression again. I was getting overstimulated, and then I would shut down, do nothing, and then get overwhelmed when I didn't get things done. It's a vicious cycle. I need to find ways to relax or set some time aside for me to unwind and decompress. A few ways that I go about doing that each month is to go get a pedicure and taking at least one day a week to do a spa day at home, and then taking another day out of the week where I just watch planning videos on YouTube or binge watch some of my favorite shows, guilt-free. This week, it's been Gilmore Girls. Okay, we've got our monthly goals set, we've got our weekly actions set, and we know what our commitments are. The next step is reflection. At the end of the month or at the end of the week, whatever works best for you, you'll want to sit down and reflect on how you did on these goals. This part is especially important for me because I forget everything. If I don't write it down, or if it's not something that's part of my regular routine, I'm going to forget it. Out of sight, out of mind. I 100% own that. Every Saturday, Chris and I go to a coffee shop. We take our planners, and we'll talk through how we did on our goals for the week. If we didn't meet them, we talk about what kept us from meeting those goals. Once we're both able to identify what those blockers are, we're able to set new goals for the next week, whether it's, hey, let's try this again, or let me scale it back just a little bit and not take on so much. We also take time to recognize each other's progress and celebrate that. And it's so important to celebrate the little wins. As a married couple, another thing that Chris and I will do sometimes is ask each other, how did I show up for you this week? Or what feedback do you have for me? This has helped our communication and being able to tell each other, hey, that one thing you did really got under my skin, before it gets to a point where we're blowing up at each other because someone is blinking the wrong way or something. And it's usually me. It's usually me blowing up. Overstimulation is real. What does Taylor Swift say? Hey, it's me. I'm the problem, it's me. Let's start to wrap things up. To summarize, we talked about why it's important to focus on our personal growth, why we should be setting value to our goals, and how picking out a word of the year or a value statement can help you clarify what your goals are, breaking down our long-term or annual goals into short-term goals, which would be monthly or weekly, and why it's important to reflect, reset, and celebrate progress. We made it to the end, and if you stuck with me this far, thank you. I very much appreciate you. I hope I was able to give you some inspiration as you go about setting your own goals for 2024. Don't forget to subscribe or follow so that you get notified when the next episode drops. And hey, I also want to hear from you. You can reach out to me on the socials, on Instagram at Her Strength Podcast, or on Facebook at Her Strength in Him. I also noticed that Spotify has a space where you can reach out to me and ask your questions there. I'm happy to chat with you on there as well. I have to say that I very much appreciate those of you who've already reached out to me. My heart is so overjoyed and I'm so overwhelmed with happiness and gratitude. I might not get back to everybody right away, but please know that I do see every message, every chat, and every email. And again, it just warms my heart so much, the support that I've gotten so far. In the next episode, I'm going to be going through pretty much the same format, but I'll be talking about the next area of life, which is fun and recreation, something we all need a little bit of. Thank you again so much for showing your support. Stay blessed, and until next time, friends.